When talking about sprinting, generally the first figure that comes into people's minds is, of course, Usain Bolt. But those who delve into sprinting at least a little beneath the surface, I believe, understands perfectly well that the most prominent icon of human acceleration is Su Bingtian. The Chinese track and field superstar may not have 60-meter race world record, which is a discipline that shows human acceleration the most, but he holds the fastest 60-meter split in a 100-meter race in history, 6.29 seconds, surpassing even Usain Bolt's or Christian Coleman's 60 meters times. I personally believe that Su Bingtian is such a likable and relatable figure due to his humbleness, work ethic, and relatability to an average man. Don't get me wrong, this guy is far more talented than most people, but compared to most elite sprinters, he was still miles behind as far as his natural talent goes, and in general, Su is one of the biggest examples of what miracle, intelligent, specific, and disciplined training can produce even in such an event as 100 meters race, which is considered majorly based on talent due to its extremely prominent physical nature, yet not so prominent in skill technical aspects to the naked eye of an average fan, of course, not to the sprinters. Furthermore, what's even more interesting is that Su Bingtian was not even considered a talented sprinter in his city, let alone the whole of China, despite running an impressive 11.72 seconds 100 meters race in only 9th grade and touching a basketball backboard at only the height of 150 centimeters at the time. Born in a farmer family in the 1980s, Su was a simple and humble boy. Furthermore, his coach Yuan called him one of the most committed athletes he ever saw. That same coach took notice of Chinese prodigies' incredible stride frequency, and while others had written Su off, his coach saw advantage in short stature and high stride frequency. I personally believe and only can speculate that he saw it that way because stride frequency is more talent-based while stride length is more improvable, since many exercises can be applied to train this specific aspect. Now, my personal interest, considering this athlete, lies in his training and progression. To understand just how far behind Su was the most elite sprinters, his best time at age 20 was only 10.28 seconds, which is much slower than around 10 seconds that is required to qualify for Olympics, and usually at least 9.9 seconds to qualify to Olympics 100 meters finals. Typically, sprinters reach their peak by around the age of 25, so Chinese prodigy didn't have that much time. He knew very well that his strength was his acceleration and stride frequency, so instead of focusing on his weak side like training on stamina and speed maintenance, he continued focusing on power, shortening ground contact times, his concentric especially ability, eccentric power, tendon springness. It's actually interesting how much of concentric exercises he does, and that every exercise besides heavy squats he does, even in the weight room, he tries to do quickly in concentric phase specifically. But in general, if analyzed acceleration phase, we also could call it a speed generation phase, which would rely heavy on concentric contraction ability, while eccentric power is more so needed to change the vector of already generated speed or speed maintenance, due to eccentric power, especially in the quicker motions, being way more dependent on tendon, thus not requiring so much muscle stored energy, and allowing sprinters like Usain Bolt or Carl Lewis with their very long tendons to maintain speed better than their opponents. Yet Su has chosen a different path and worked his way through power, stride quickness, short ground contact times. That's why he managed to break into 9-second zone, running 9.99 seconds by the age of 26 in 2015. His coach from 2016, Roy Huntington, claimed that Su was still quite weak by 2016 in strength department, especially his soleus. And although that might be true, but I personally want to point out that strength has little correlation with sprinters' running ability and has little specificity in training. It only can work as a supplementary factor. Not all emphasis should be put on strength, especially when Bingtian has done a lot of work already, breaking into 9-second barrier before meeting his coach, who claimed that Chinese superstar by then was weaker than some women sprinters in some departments. I personally believe that Su was intelligent and passionate enough to realize that he needed and he trained what he needed. Just because he was weaker in some categories doesn't mean it correlates with sprinting. Especially when after working with Huntington, Bingtian results only got worse for a couple of years, after then reaching 9.91 seconds and then again dropping down to season's best of only 10.05 seconds in 2019. But in 2021, when in Tokyo Olympics in the semi-finals, Su has broken all-time record with the fastest recorded split of 6.29 seconds in the first 60 meters. He made other elite athletes look slow in that particular distance, being a couple meters ahead. Despite his way worse speed maintenance than others, Su managed to win that race, being ahead of an eventual Olympic champion Marcel Jacobs, while Su himself finished 6th in the finals. Though looking at the progression pattern, Bingtian's intelligence and discipline, I would say that Su has done a lot of smart work himself, and his previous coaches did that too, even until he met Huntington. Pattern progression, his personal traits suggest no reason why Su wouldn't have a chance of reaching 9.83 seconds in one particular season, even without his help. And this is important because I want people to believe and need to realize that it's athletes' consistency and intelligence for over a decade that has to do with such results, rather than putting everything on someone or something that revolutionized everything quickly. All in all, Su Bingtian is a brilliant sprinting character and has done for himself in his training exactly and specifically what he needed. Every athlete in their particular discipline should realize that specificity is the king, and unless you are similar build and similar type sprinter as Bingtian, don't blindly copy his training methods. It worked for him, it might not work for you.